Good afternoon, everybody. As we let everybody in, welcome to our first show of 2021 of Chewing the Accounting Fat. Jason Cunningham, welcome.
G'day, Jenso. How are you, pal?
Mate, I'm excellent. It's a Friday.
I always have a slight little smirk on my face when you announce the title of our show, which I find outstanding.
We spent so much time on creating that, didn't we?
Yeah.
What do you reckon of that? Yeah, that'll do. Let's make it work.
Hey, got a pretty exciting guest on today, a friend of mine.
We do.
Yeah, I'm pretty pumped to have her on. I've known her for a long time, and she has, prior to us jumping on air, PJ, she gave me a few of the rules, and she did say, she said, if I call you Jason, you know you're in trouble. Hey, Keddie, how are you?
I'm really well. How are you guys?
Yeah, good.
Excellent. And you probably noticed we're now to all of our wonderful, loyal customers, I suppose, from our show, mate. We're in a new studio here. You can probably tell we're together instead of being in lockdown. So
when you say, hang on, mate, when you say we're together, you mean we're in the same room, right?
Everyone knows we're together. So let's not fool people.
You know the truth, don't you, Keddie?
I absolutely.
So Keddie and I go back a long way, PJ.
Yes.
A long way, don't we, Keddie? We've had some fun together at various different conferences, and you've always pulled me up to make sure that I'm being a
Someone
good boy.
has to keep you in line.
No, hey, honestly, Keddie, pretty pumped to have you on here because obviously, as you know, a lot of our listeners and a lot of our supporters are CPAs, and you know that I wear the CPA badge of honour, and I'm a proud CPA, and I definitely am that. So we're going to have a little bit of fun. It's great to, maybe we might go a little bit deep, and you might tell me to, Jason, don't ask me those questions. But yeah, I think it's great that you're here, and the work. And I'll say straight off the bat that the work that you guys do to support us as members, I think, is outstanding. I know at times you're hamstrung by some of the things that you can and can't do, but I do really appreciate the work from one member to another to say thank you.
Greatly appreciated. And yeah, I must say I've been with CPA a long time, and I've stayed because I love working with members, and I love being able to basically hear what you guys are going through and try and respond and react and support where we can.
Which is brilliant. And I think today we're going to go through a number of different topics. I know that one of the ones is we're going to talk about the My Firm, My Future report. And I know, Keddie, you and I broke that down a little bit with our podcast a few weeks ago. We're going to go through that. We're going to talk about some of the key findings. Jason, we're going to talk about, we might break down even one of the topics. We might pick, I don't know, technology as an example. I know after reading the report, that was a 2019 report and then a updated 2020 report.
No, we did a different report in 2020, which I'm happy to talk about as well. That was looking at the value of professional advice.
Okay, let's start with that.
Sure.
So,
hang on.
Oh, shit, sorry.
Just one thing. That's all right. Just one thing for all of you that have just tuned in. We're using the Q&A bar as well. If you do have questions, I've got my laptop here, or what do you call this thing? iPad in front of me. So any questions, we'll take them. We've got time at the end of today's session as well. We'll probably be online for, what are we sitting here, 12:35, probably for another 55 minutes. So we've got plenty of time for questions as well. So use the Q&A bar, please. Sorry, mate, go.
Hi, Keddie, it's Jason. How are you? Hey, Keddie, tell me about this value of professional advice. One of the things that intrigues me as a public practitioner, as a professional, I think one of our biggest challenges is when we communicate and engage with our customer is to determine what our value is. And I remember early doors when I first went into business in 1997, a long time ago, PJ, I used to charge $27.50 an hour. It was an enormous sum, and a lot of people think, what the hell's this guy doing? But I was subcontracting to another accounting firm who are now in Essendon Fields. That firm is called Matthew Steer, and they're a champion firm.
It might be online.
Yeah, and I used to do stuff for $27.50 an hour, and I used to think to myself, Jason, you know what? You would have made it when you can charge 10 times that at $275 an hour. And I get to the point, and a long story short, I guess now I feel that we are all hamstrung by the alley rate, and typically it's the best type of advice that we can give our customers when we can show our customer that it's of value and we have a fixed fee. Now, before I get you to answer my question, which is somewhat long-winded, Keddie Weller, when I did my public practice certificate down at Lawn, I remember part of that was around ethics and the guy that was presenting said you can't charge a percentage of the fee or refund and all this sort of stuff because you could be inclined to up the client's refund to get a bigger fee. So I just wanted to share all that with you and then just get some feedback from you about this report, about the value advice.
Yep, sure. So we've come at it from probably a different sort of angle than what you've been talking about there. Basically, in 2019, we did a report called Regulatory Burden, the Impact on the Professional Accounting Sector. And this has come about because every time I talk to members, all the common theme is the regulatory frameworks, the complexity and the burden that you're working under. Especially if you've got a multidisciplinary firm, you've got, tax agents, or TASA, you've got the Corporations Act for Financial Planning, you've got the National Consumer Credit Protection Act for any consumer credit, and then a heap of regulations, exemptions, and other things that go over the top of that. So essentially, you can be sitting in front of your client and having the one conversation, jump into 3 different areas of regulation and require 3 different hats. So it just doesn't work. So we did a report in 2019 looking at that from a consumer and small business perspective, understanding what type of advice and services they want and the challenges they see trying to get advice. And then we did the same research with our members trying to understand what the issue is. And basically, it was like a third of members providing financial planning advice were going to considering leaving the sector. There was a high demand for consumers and small business to actually get advice from their accountant, and they felt that they weren't able to do that because their accountant may not be able to have the right license or registration. And so we used that as our platform to start advocating for regulatory change in 2019.
And how'd you go with that?
Well, as we all know, advocating for regulatory change is never a short-term gain. It's always a long-term one. And it's something that we basically wanted to follow up. And so in 2020, we did the Value of Advice report. So if you're in the financial planning and financial services sector, you hear a lot about, client-centric requirements and trying to focus on these things and the need for changing definitions. But what no one actually does is say, well, what do consumers and small business actually need in terms of advice? How do they actually talk about advice, and what sort of terminology do they use? There's no point having another reform and changing general advice to sales information if it means nothing to the consumer. So we did a big research piece again. I think we had about 1,200 consumers and about 815 small businesses. And we asked them, what are your financial challenges? What are your goals? What are your objectives? How do you define these things? And really trying to understand what they see as advice, as well as who they're going to for advice. Interestingly, it was around 42% of consumers don't see anyone for advice, even their friends and family. And around 20% of small business don't seek any advice as well, even from friends and family. So there's a big proportion of the Australian community not seeking any professional or any advice at all. And there's some common barriers that come through, not understanding financial literacy, costs, not knowing who to go to for advice or who can give them advice. And so essentially between those 2 reports, we've been advocating for change and using this as an evidence base. So when we go and talk to government, we can say, we've done the research, we can tell you what the challenges are, and this is what needs to change.
How successful are you at talking to government, Keddie?
Yeah, we actually get really good traction, Jason.
Oh, good.
We've got really open relationships in terms with Treasury and different ministers' office. The challenge we have, especially the financial planning sector, is they're committed to the Royal Commission and the recommendations, and that means you've got a very tight reform agenda. This year, we've already know by 1 July, we'll see compensation scheme of last resort coming through. We'll see reform for a single disciplinary body coming through. We've just had breach reporting reforms coming through. There's just been changes overnight around the fee disclosures coming through. So trying to come in and say we need regulatory change to basically reduce this complexity is pretty challenging in the current environment. Doesn't mean we don't do it every day.
Yeah. This is why it was good to get Keddie on. I mean, this woman is a underpaid advocate for our industry, but also for the consumer. And I see it through a biased lens, Keddie, and I know you personally, and we are friends, and we've known each other for a long time. And it gives me great joy to hear you pushing that envelope, because as you started to speak, I started to get frustrated, and I'm sure not with you, but with the challenges that exist for us as a professional, as an accountant, but also somebody on the having an engaging conversation with a customer who needs the advice. And then we sit here, and so our firm at the practice, as you know, we are a multidisciplinary firm. We have accounting, financial planning, and lending advisory, and I sit and wear 2 hats. I am a licensed financial planner. I give no advice because I'm too been scared to. So my partner, Matt Morrison, who is the responsible manager of our license, he gives the advice, and I find it somewhat ridiculous that I would have a client come in and say, I want some advice around how much I should put into superannuation and where I should invest my money. So I wheel in my financial planning partner, and he sits there and he gives them advice and writes out a statement of advice. He leaves the room, they give me the statement of advice and say, Jason, is this what I should do?
Yeah, I completely agree. And I think the other challenge you have in this space is that the entire framework around the provision of advice is so regulated and constrained that it actually changes the relationship that you actually can have with your client. So if you think about it, when you're talking to your client as your accountant or tax agent, they might go, guys, I've got a small business. I'm trying to work out which way to structure it. I've got some debt that I need to consider. Don't forget, I've got, the kids coming into private school. Can you just give me some ideas of what I should do? And you may not give them the strategy there, but I think in terms of your structure, we should think about this component, and we can look at doing that. You know what? Let me just think about it, and I'll come back to you. But here's what I'm thinking as a start. You can't do that in financial planning. The first thing you do is give them a financial services guide that tells your client how to make a complaint. Now, how is that starting a positive relationship with a client? Talking to some of the members who are licensed under the larger licensees at the moment, it's taking 3 months to get a statement of advice vetted and signed off before they can give it to the client. So before you've even given it to the client, it's already out of date.
That's right.
The whole process doesn't work. It's fundamentally flawed, and it needs to change.
Yeah, and I it warms my heart hearing you speak like this, Keddie, because as you said, one of the downsides is you can ruin a relationship. A client will come in to our office, and I'll give advice on a whiteboard, write something down, she'd walk away, and away we go. And then as you said, to give financial planning advice. And I remember having a chat to a good mate of mine, Stewie Major, who you know well from Proctor Major. He's a bit mad, and I mean, everyone that knows him knows he's mad. But he said that they made the strategic decision not to go into financial planning. He sort of said, that you make a strategic decision to do it or not to do it, but don't go half-baked.
Yep.
And so when we sort of first entered the financial planning world 15 or 20 years ago, we sort of went out half-baked. And the reason that we did that, because we were referring clients onto other financial planners who were dropping the ball with the customer service piece. And that other bit, your relationship. Absolutely, it was an extension on our brand. And we thought, shit, we better bring this in-house. And so we brought it in-house, and we put a token financial planner, if you like, and we did it half-baked. And it wasn't until about maybe 10 or 12 years ago until we got Matt Morrison, and, we got our own license, and we did it, fully cocked sort of thing. Do we actually do it right? And I don't know how Matt does it, because it drives me insane. Let me go through. I mean, a risk profile and all that sort of stuff, that sort of makes a bit of sense, and all this sort of garbage. But if you've already got the existing relationship with the client and all that sort of stuff, all that other guff, it needs to go, Keddie.
Yeah. Oh, look, I think the challenge we've had is we started the Corps Act in 1999, 2000. We've had inquiry and reviews and all these things come through senates and parliamentary reviews. All that does is put another layer of regulation, future financial advice, Royal Commission, all these bits of regulation. But no one actually has taken stock and gone, well, actually, that bit doesn't work. And actually, that bit conflicts with that bit. And that bit doesn't actually add value. And, it's all done under the guise of trying to improve the outcome for the consumer. And ironically, it's actually alienating the consumer from the advice process.
That's right. Because there's so many people that just can't afford it now because of all the crap that you have to go through.
Or don't understand and get overwhelmed by the process, because there is a very straight process that is defined that you have to go through. And, it changes the way you can engage and actually have that relationship with your client. And we talk about it, you just spoke about as an accountant or tax agent, you're empowered to be able to control what you do and how you talk to your clients, provided you meet all those obligations around, conduct. But in the financial planning world, you've got so many different pieces of disclosure you have to go through, the process, the timelines. It's become such a risk-averse, compliance-driven culture that it's actually forgetting the client at the centre of the advice.
Yeah, correct. And we've experienced the same thing in terms of the amount of accounting firms we work with as well. There's more stepping away from it rather than trying to engage with it.
I think that's
and the challenge, or the sad part about that, is that the demand is there. So our research, other research shows that there is a demand for increasing financial planning services. We know that we've had maybe 9,000 advisors leave since the FASEA reform started, and by the end of the year, if your advisors haven't done the exam by the end of this year, they're automatically going to lose their registration. So if you're an advisor out there and you haven't done the exam, please enrol now for the March one. Please enrol now for the March exam. So you give yourself every shot to do that. because you will automatically lose your registration at the end of this year, and it effectively makes you a new entrant, and you have to go back to square one and do an approved for CA degree.
What a crock of shit. Sorry about that. Excuse my language in front of a lady. Sorry about that.
So, you know, make sure you do the exam. So I think the challenge is everyone sees the system doesn't work. Everyone sees there's issues. I'm not sure if everyone is aware, but we meet regularly with the Financial Planning Association, CANS, Institute of Public Accountants, and the SMSF Association, and we work on regulatory burden, trying to address these issues and push them through as a sector. It's challenging because the current environment is focused on the Royal Commission and those recommendations, but we are absolutely pushing for change because the system doesn't work.
No, it doesn't. Hey, let's talk about positive things before
Love to.
I end up necking myself. So, for those on the call that don't realise, I used to be the chairman of the Public Practice Committee at CPA, which is one of the ways I met Keddie and established a relationship with her. And one of the biggest challenges that existed, and the Public Practice Committee at CPA Australia, our role was to be the interface between the member and our membership organisation, and we were sort of like a channel, and we filtered some stuff out, and we did some pretty cool things and all that sort of stuff. And one of the big bugbears that existed for a lot of our members in public practice was the QA review, Keddie. And I know that you have been doing a power of work behind the scenes to change that process. And can you share with us what CPA are doing now? And, you know, because respectfully, the old way was pretty archaic and a waste of money, and we were frustrated, and we just had to do it to keep our membership. But today, you've got some new initiatives and made some changes into the way you engage with public practitioners around their QA.
Yeah, so absolutely, and I think the starting point, what I'll say is that we've actually had a massive amount of change across the board in public practice. We've changed the public practice program, where I'll talk about the quality review program. Our education support and professional development has changed, and all of this has been driven by member feedback. So, you know, essentially we've really stopped and taken stock, and over the last 2 years tried to understand what are the challenges, what's not working, what needs to be updated. And then as we've gone through and updated each one of these programs, we've had member committees or voice of member panels involved. We've gone back and litmus tested with members as we go, trying to make sure at every step of the way we're adding value and being relevant. Because if we're not, to your point, Jace, why be a member?
That's right.
So yeah, as I said, the public practice program's completely changed. You know, you used to have to do your semester-long module and show up to the workshop. It's now an e-learning, and you can do a virtual classroom, so you don't have to come into an office, or if you're regional travel. The quality review we had to put on hold anyway with COVID, because we obviously couldn't go out and do face-to-face visits. Yeah. And especially if you're lucky to be in Metro Melbourne, like I know we are. We had an extra long lockdown compared to most of the other states and territories. Yeah. But we actually used that time to go back and actually look at the value proposition around that. And I'm certainly not going to take credit for this one. I've got an amazing colleague, Claire Bannon, who's the Senior Manager of Professional Standards. Her team has been working on updating and changing the whole value proposition. So instead of having a sole focus around compliance with professional standards and coming in with a real ticker box sort of approach, it's been completely changed to have more of a focus on not only the professional standards, but also the business. So understanding where are the risks, where are the challenges, what do you need help with? Looking at everything, not just, you know, maybe staff, technology, marketing, all of those things that really need to be working well for you to be a successful business owner. And also not looking at it from an individual perspective, but also moving to more of a firm view as well. So, you know, rather than tapping one person who's a partner and then coming back 12 months later to the other one, you know, being able to approach this more holistically. So there'll be a lot more comms coming out on this towards the middle of the year, but it's really about making this a positive experience, that we're going in and actually helping and supporting. And if we identify that there's a risk or a challenge within the business, what are the tools and resources we have to actually help the member address that and, you know, change that in their business?
Yeah, brilliant. Look, I think that's a good little segue to go into the My Firm, My Future report, which obviously was a 2019 report, and you might talk about the update to what you did in 2020 as well. Tell us about the planning that went into that, and you know, and then we'll talk about some of the key findings as well, because to obviously get something like that up would have been a fairly big planning process, I'm assuming.
Yeah, so 2019 was actually a really big year, because we already had the regulatory burden report that I spoke about, but we also wanted to do a report that was looking at the future opportunities and challenges for the accounting profession. So again, trying to understand what do you need to know as a business owner to be able to set yourselves up for success now and also in the future. So again, we looked at, we engaged over 800 small businesses, over 1,000 consumers, as well as over 500 members in practice, and really spoke to them about what, in terms of consumers and SMEs, what advice do they need? What challenges are they facing? What services might they need in the future? Because it's not going to be the same. With the accounting profession, talking to members about what their challenges are, what they're seeing in their business. We did focus groups as well as one-on-one interviews with all of those demographics as well. And essentially what we pulled together was a really great report. If you haven't read it, please jump onto our website and grab it. Happy to give you guys a link to send out to your followers if you like.
Yes, that'd be good.
But essentially what we did was pull together a report that had really 4 key themes. Looking to specialise, incorporating advisory, doing better business, and leveraging technology. And those 4 themes have come through into what we've been focusing on in terms of our professional development and resources and tools. So 2019, we had the report. In 2020, we actually developed 4 practical guides based on those themes. Again, working with members that are SMEs in that space, or in the case of the technology, getting a consultant who works with accounting practices. So, we've got the right expertise, and trying to break it down into something that's really simple and digestible. We know that members are time poor. You know that you've got limited resources. You don't have days and days to go and understand and read long reports. So the guides are about 10 pages long, trying to take you through the strategy, the steps end to end, bit of a checklist, questions that you can ask yourself so you can really get into it, some tips along the way, and really there to try and help you think about how to incorporate those sort of 4 themes into your business strategy. Not everyone's going to have a massive looking to specialize strategy, because it will depend on what you're looking to do. But you need to think about it. If you're not going to specialize in an area, to your point, what's your referral solution? Are you bringing someone else in-house? How are you going to support the client? Because what your clients are asking for today is not going to be the same in 5 years' time.
Keddie, I'm going to tell you, and I say this respectfully, I think it's one of the best bits of information that's come out of CPA in a long time. And for me personally, I say this through a biased lens. For me personally as a member, it's one of the things I've got the most value from CPA in 10 years.
Yeah, well, I'm absolutely stoked to hear that, because like I said, we are really trying to focus on what is valuable and relevant to you.
Yeah, and look, every member is in a different position, in a different cycle in their business or in their life and all that sort of stuff, and I get that. That's when I said to PJ, we've got to get Keddie. I want to get Keddie on the podcast, because I think this is an awesome tool. And, I'm a proud CPA member, as you know, and I have had interesting and engaging conversations with various different people at CPA at times, and I have been challenged at times, and like a lot of members, we have been challenged. And I'll come and I'll talk about the elephant in the room, but I'm just giving you some preparation for that. But we will address that elephant in the room at some stage, and what we as an organisation, and a lot of people, when I was chairman of the public practice committee, members would contact me and go, "What are you people doing at CPA?" And I would say, "You are a CPA, like I am. We are all CPAs, and we need to understand that we are a collective, and when we collaborate together and operate collectively, the synergy that's created, the whole becomes greater than the sum of the parts." And so I understand. I am an advocate for CPA. I get challenged at times, and I have with Alex Melly previously, as you're aware of that, like many other people have. And I will get to a point of talking about how was our brand damaged and what have we done to improve that since that era.
Yep.
But I think that the report that you produce is one of the things that's helped us with that, because, I'll just leave it at that. Sorry, Keddie.
No. And you know what? It's a good point. And I think, one of the challenges that the organisation has had during that period was there was not the engagement and the listening to the membership. So trying to understand what you need as a member and a business owner and someone who's, you are the public face of the brand. Yep. There wasn't the engagement and the two-way conversation. And, I don't think that's a secret. I think everyone who was on the line, and yourself included, would talk about that. One of the things that we've been really focused on since I've come to the public practice area, and Rowena Buddy, my manager.
Yeah, she's cool.
Really trying to understand and listen to you guys. So everything we are doing is member driven. as I said, when we came into this area, we kind of had some grand plans. And then when we started looking under the hood, we're like, actually, we need to change the public practice. Hang on, we need to change that program. Hang on, we don't have a great value offer in terms of PD. And we've really spent 2 years trying to unpick all the challenges and making sure we're going and engaging with the members every step of the way. My team and myself, we attend every state public practice committee. We attend, obviously, the Public Practice Advisory Committee. We're reaching out with the divisions and now engaging with the SME committees as part of our new strategy. I talk to, as does my team and the rest of us, hundreds of members all the time. And every step of the way, we are listening for feedback. So I think one thing I'd love to say to members today is if we aren't doing something or you think there's a further opportunity, tell us what we're not doing, and we really will listen to that and respond. And sorry, Jace.
Sorry, what I was going to say is there's no doubt, and this conversation is not going to be about promoting the CPA brand so much, but what I think the other change, Keddie, I mean, you're now running public practice, which I think is awesome. But the other change is there's the commitment from the board.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I think that's really important. When I was there, and I'm still a member, but when I was sitting in public practice, it was constantly fed to me that the public practitioner makes up 25% of the CPA membership base. Now, I don't mind throwing out a quote and often get it wrong, but I just say the number and I think it's right. So, but you'll correct me, Keddie Willa. But
you're going to put me on the spot, and I don't know the stats straight off the top of my head.
We don't make up from a volume perspective, PJ. Yeah. There is more members in business, government, not-for-profit sector. I know Phil McCann's on this, and I often Phil McCann joins us. He'll shoot through an email, give me the stats. And about 25 to 30% of the membership base of public or in public practice. And it was often said, we don't carry enough weight. Yes, right? Now, when I wrote it down before, we need to make sure we're adding value to our members and remaining relevant.
Yep.
Right. And I think that's good for the public practitioner to hear. And those of us, previously, I know that there's some members out there that were begrudgingly CPAs, right? Because you spend a long time studying PJ, and that brand is a great thing to wear. But now what we're getting is we can, the reports like the report Keddie's talking about, these tools are freaking valuable to help us run our businesses. And the change to the public practice program that I'm excited to hear about is going to add value to the members so that they can run their business and run their business 100%. In a more successful way. The change to the QA program, which was a crock of shit previously, and that's twice I've used French in your company, and I got in trouble last time when I used a bit of French. I'm just sharing with you that I'm multilingual.
It's fine. I think look, just quickly, and I'm not here to plug CPA, but I will say the last thing in the My Firm, My Future suite that we really want to talk about is the e-learning. So you're talking about supporting you as business owners. We actually have a whole e-learning strategy that we're building out, and it's got two purposes. The first is really trying to support, again, members as business owners and really trying to give them the different areas. So practice management, technology, marketing, people and culture, or people and learning, communication, and I'm forgetting because there's like 10 and I've forgotten the rest. But there's a whole e-learning strategy behind that. There's currently 10 modules that are live. From today, there'll be another 21 modules that are live. They're all about an hour, but they're all in topics that are trying to support business structure, funding options, communication styles. All of the modules give you obviously CPD, and then we are working towards a broader content strategy that will build out till 2023. And every one of those modules is complimentary for members.
Okay, so how do I get that? I'll just go to CPA website.
So if you go to the CPA Australia website and go to the public practice portal, if you click on the toolkit, you'll see actually My Firm, My Future comes up as a landing page. And on the landing page is the report, the guides, the e-learning, and also case studies that we did as well. And you can access it all in the one spot.
Okay, and it's all complimentary for me being a member.
Complimentary for you as a member.
And I get CPD.
And then the second purpose of it is supporting you as the business owner, but also helping you sort of upskill if you need to in business advisory and help you develop those skills so you can add value to your SME clients. So we're really trying to support you.
So, and just, sorry, Peter, I missed just a quick CPA question. So, and I get PD points for that?
Yep.
Does it go straight into my diary? If it says, yeah, good, that's good. See, there you go. Sorry, mate. Hey, okay, so can I talk to you about another thing, please?
Go for it.
One of the biggest challenges that exists for a lot of public practitioners, Jason, learn how to speak, young man, one of the biggest challenges for us in public practice is the accessibility to team members. So I'll go away to a conference, or I'll ring a mate in business who's running a business like mine, and I'll say, what are the biggest challenges for you? And they'll say, my staff, and maybe my customers, my clients aren't paying on time. And we have the joy of dealing with an ethical community known as recruiters who are wonderful in their ethics and their integrity and how they behave. And I'm just somewhat challenged as to what the future looks like. I know for our organisation as we grow, I think, we're a people-based business. There's 47 of us in Melbourne and there's 10 of us in Sydney. And there's people on the line that there's 3 of them in their organisation, and there's people on the line that'll be 103. Mm-hmm. And we've all got the same challenges as our people. And I'd be keen to hear from Keddie what CPA's strategy is, if they have one, around the people piece and how you might be able to help us with our organisations.
Yep, sure. So within the e-learning that I just spoke about, there is actually a people and learning stream. So things like recruitment, development, how to be an employer of choice, those sorts of themes that come through. So again, trying to support you engaging and dealing with your staff. I think the other challenge that I'm hearing consistently from members is just actually trying to find and attract and retain talented staff. And that's the challenge, because there seems to be, there was actually an article in the Accountants Daily yesterday, I don't know if you saw it, it was something like, we've got this demand outstripping supply. We really have a shortage of, quality candidates at the moment.
Yeah, we do.
So I think, in terms of that environment, it's going to be a challenge, because if you don't have the talent pool, everyone's going to be fighting for the same people. Yeah. And I think that's where it's important for you as a business owner and an employer to think about how to differentiate yourself and actually how to become that employer of choice. And that's how you're going to attract and retain those staff. It's not a great solution, because it means it's going to be challenging for everyone depending on the size of their business. But I think in this environment, until we can start to bolster that supply and get the graduates coming through and train them, I think that's a bit of a challenge. One of the other things we've been talking about, and it's on my radar and I haven't been able to action it yet, is talking about a sort of a job-ready public practice program. Yeah. Another lot of feedback I hear from our members is you have the graduates come in, but they've never done a tax return, or they've never seen what zero looks like, or, all these sort of fundamentals that you need them to sort of know to hit the ground running. Yeah. So we've got this concept that we're sort of trying to flesh out at the moment in how do we build a job-ready public practice program. So, if a graduate's done this, they're not going to know everything, but they'll have a base level of knowledge that you will be able to trust, so you can bring them in, they can start adding more value more quickly in your business.
We actually, I think that's very clever. Yeah, I cannot comprehend for the life of me how universities are not having the kids learn Zero and MYOB and REC. I just cannot for the life of me understand what's going through at university level not to teach them that.
I think there's been a challenge where the curriculum has not really evolved at the same pace as the accounting profession. And for anyone who works in academia, it's not easy to change the curriculum in that space and the strategy. And by the time you go through and do it, it's almost redundant. So I feel like there's almost a reluctance to sometimes evolve.
Well, maybe that's a place for CPA then.
They're conversations we definitely. They are definitely conversations that we have and we engage on. And I think that's the other reason we're starting to look more in the micro credential sort of strategy space as well. How can we develop shorter skill sets to sort of upskill people in different things like digital, data analytics and things like that. So that you can do something short and sharp and you don't have to spend 3 years at university, but you can help fill a gap that may be in a business.
Yeah, good point. Yeah. Also, one of the key findings from the report was, I'm just going to pull one out because you also mentioned it before, technology. Yeah. I think, the amount of firms, whether it's our virtual lunches or whether it's our shows as well, there's a lot of firms out there. There's a lot of different app stacks out there that people are getting very confused about. How do you see the future, or sort of what were some of the findings from the report about the future of tech?
Yeah. So when we asked members what the biggest challenge in their business was, it was technology. And when we said what's the biggest opportunity, they said technology. So everyone knows technology is going to be a bit of a game changer, right? That's the thing that's going to really help you in your practice. But the challenge, to your point, Paul, there's so many different options. There's so much information. It's almost overwhelming. And where do you start, especially if you're running a business and you've got no time during the day to work it out? Yes. And I think that's the biggest challenge. It is that members will know that they need to do something, but where do you start? So the tech guide that we put together is trying to start that conversation and sort of help people go on that journey. And then we do have 5 e-learning modules that, like I said, are being released from today that sort of help members work through the process of building a technology strategy, implementing it into their business, thinking about things like security and compliance obligations and how they can build that into some of that technology as well.
Yep.
But we will be doing more in this space. So one of the other areas we're currently focusing on is cybersecurity. That's becoming an increasing area of risk, and we are putting more of a content strategy around that after we've done a bit of research to work out what the challenges and pain points are. And then also, I think the other part is how to build that technology stack. You know, it's not like you have one CRM and that's the end of it. How do you bring it all together? So as part of that content strategy, we'll be building out e-learning and other resources. We'll actually look to do more of that. The research showed that members don't want us to say, well, that software is the answer. They want us to be agnostic, so we can give the guidance for them to make the right decision for their business.
Is that what it really says?
Yep.
Oh, I'm a member, and I want you to tell me what to do because it's frustrating.
Well, that's half the challenge, though, isn't it?
I'm going to challenge on that, Keddie. Is that what the members are saying?
Yeah. That was the research that we did out of the My Fair, My Future, is they don't want us to say, but I also think about it, Jace, it depends on your practice, right?
Yeah,
like your service offering and what you have from a multidisciplinary is very different to a sole practitioner who may be very heavily based in tax with a little bit of business advisory.
Absolutely. But you know what? This is not a podcast just for Jason and his firm, right?
No.
But I wonder whether CPA could say, if you are a smaller sole practitioner firm that does tax, we recommend this. If you are a big small business, we recommend this. If you're multidisciplinary, we recommend this, and we recommend that. I don't know.
I think there's more opportunity for us to help in terms of breaking down some of the pros and cons of different options rather than actually saying this one is the best thing. Because, I mean, I don't know if you guys are both you might be both on the same sort of software base, but, you know, talking to members, everyone's got different sort of options they're looking at. We certainly don't want to be alienating some members because they've chose this one and we're looking at a different one. So if we can provide more of a guidance, we'll be able to support you make right decisions.
Call it offensive or not?
I've got a lot of time for Keddie, but I honestly think that was a bit soft, but I also...
I can tell you it's backed up by the research.
Yeah, that actually be like that. But I also can understand. I guess...
Totally agree.
I'm just frustrated because at the moment, you know, the challenge I'm faced with, where we're looking at changing our software, the CRM that we run our practice through. And we are challenged because we are a multidisciplinary practice. And so we want to get a full view of the client spend and who's working on, you know, so client Keddie Waller and Mr. Waller and Waller Family Trust and Waller Corporate Beneficiary and Waller Super Fund, they might, you know, they're engaging with different parts of our organisation, right? You're engaging with the practice, but you might engage with our financial planning team, our lending advisory team and our tax guys, right? I want to get full transparency about what the Waller family spend is, how she's going and all that sort of stuff. And for the life of me, because I'm writing a financial plan in Xplan, I'm getting a home loan through Flex, I'm lodging a tax return through Zero Tax, I've got a CRM over here. She changes address, she gets married. I want to kill myself. That's like a 7-hour process, you know? So anyway, I'm just coming down.
There'll be a lot smarter people than me on the call that will be able to give you better guidance, but I can tell you it's certainly an area of focus and we are building out those resources to try and help members through that process.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
I'm a little bit concerned about how excited he's getting here and a little bit agitated. So I might just move on
I'm
to
glad
something.
I'm not in the studio then, Paul.
Yeah. We did invite you in. I also wanted to touch on one of the key areas. I know 2020 was a massive year for a lot of different people, a lot of different businesses, a lot of different people struggling emotionally and mentally.
Yeah.
I'd like to talk about the support that you're providing members with regards to the mental health side. Is that something we can talk about?
Definitely. Look, I think I spoke a lot before about the committees, and I can tell you that, last year, some of those committee meetings were just... And talking to members was just so hard. I completely felt for the frontline sort of role that you play as an accountant. You know, you're not just the accountant, you're not just the tax agent, you're playing the counsellor and quite often the only confidant that the small business owner or the individual client may have. You know, we had members saying to us that they don't feel they can charge their clients because the clients have got no cash flow, and we kept saying, well, we agree, but you're also a small business owner and there's only so long you can live without a cash flow. And, you know, we had so many members coming to us and saying, we're on JobKeeper because our clients just can't pay and we're trying to support them. And also then the joys of managing remote staff and trying to quickly get technology systems up and going, and the JobKeeper, it it was just a ridiculous year. And the number of members that came to us who were just basically beyond capacity, absolutely beyond capacity. So there was a strong focus for us on mental health through that, and we really continued that theme. We had Claire Mann talk at our public practice virtual conference, if some of you actually joined that last year, and she did talk about some of those issues, but then we actually got her to do a recorded webinar and talking about strategies to manage burnout and try to avoid burnout. And that's been really well received. And in fact, we've had a lot of clients actually members send that to their clients.
Is that available on the website?
Yeah, it's under our wellness page. So if you go to the public practice portal, there's a big tool up the top there, or square up the top that says wellness, and under that page is all our wellness resources, including this one. We're actually working with Claire Mann at the moment. She's putting together another program to try and help around tips on helping your clients with suicide prevention. We're still hearing a lot of members coming to us and saying that they've got clients on edge and they're really worried about that. So we see that as another important tool to try and support members dealing with those sort of clients. And talking to one member, they had one client trying to attempt suicide twice. So it's definitely an issue and something we need to just support members.
Yep.
You may not have seen, or you may have hopefully seen, that we've actually got a Counting on You project at the moment. So it's part of a bigger initiative with Deakin University and the other two accounting bodies. And the goal is to train 5,000 professional accountants in supporting their clients themselves and their staff through mental health. So that program and the training invitations have gone out to members. If you haven't had an email from CPA on that yet, you will get one. Trust me, every member in public practice will get this email. The idea has got two folds. One is a research arm. So it has a group of members who will actually also nominate small business clients to go through. The idea is to try and learn what the benefit was and the opportunities were to, for the client as well as for the practitioner. And then the rest of the training is really focused on trying to upskill the members and have that level of support. So we do have, collectively between the three bodies, a goal of 5,000 practitioners. So if you want to get involved, certainly, look out for that email if you haven't already seen that. And then we've had ongoing conversations with groups like Beyond Blue. So there's a link on our website to a Beyond Blue course looking at small business advisors in this space as well. So it is a really strong focus for us, and we'll continue to go through. We are trying to promote it in our different emails, but I know you get a lot of emails for us, so it's hard. But jump onto the wellness section, you'll be able to find it.
Okay, brilliant. And then look, that's the sort of thing, I know last year we did a fair bit as well on a number of our different shows around the mental health aspects, and making sure that it's not just something that we do today and forget about tomorrow. It's a constant thing, because probably come the end of March, when a lot of the programs are also going to slow down, there could be another layer that comes through depending on the industry that clients are in.
I think it's also important to recognise, Keddie, that we all sit here, we're rolling into March and we go, we've put 2020 behind us, and away we go. You know what? There are people that are still absolutely exhausted. People haven't had a holiday, it hasn't let up. No one had a holiday because couldn't go anywhere. And people are just, I'm talking to mates in the industry, and they're just exhausted. I know personally.
February and it feels like December, don't you think?
I'm exhausted.
It's February and it feels like it should be December. It's ridiculous. I completely agree.
Yeah, just, you know what? Just stop the world for 5 days. Let everyone just calm the hell down. Let's just have a peppermint tea and a joint. Not that I smoke marijuana, or am I promoting marijuana use? That's his job. No, but you know what I mean, Keddie? Everyone just calm it down. And because I just feel that people, and this mental health thing it's not a mental health thing. It's actually a significant player. And it's linked to our performance as leaders, our performance as parents, our performance as wives and husbands. And I do another podcast, some would say a life-changing one, called Save My Business. And I interviewed yesterday my meditation teacher, and he just speaks about the importance and the beauty of meditation and getting mindfulness right and getting that headspace right. And, I'm not necessarily saying it's CPA's position or place to provide that, but yes, definitely as an avenue of support, but also maybe for us to recognise and have the conversation. And I think the more conversations we have about it, and allowing people that it's safe to be vulnerable.
Yeah.
It's
okay to be, and that's the "Are you okay" thing, and it's okay to be vulnerable as well. I think that's just as important.
But it's also taking that step back to actually think about. I think the challenge is, especially last year, members were saying, I'm working 5, 6, 7 days a week, 14-hour days, and basically go home, sleep, do it all again.
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah.
There was no capacity to have that stop. But, you know, I had one, actually a committee of the Victorian Public Practice Committee say, I knew I was done, and I knew that I was completely flat out of work. But if I didn't take that 3 days and just have that break, I wasn't going to make it through the next 3 months.
Yeah.
And, you know, recognize that and take that step back. And I know it's hard when you've got a lot of pressures and demands and timelines coming, but I think at some point, you know, to your point, it's okay to say, I actually need that break. I actually need to take that step back and invest back in myself so I can keep doing what I need to do.
Yeah, I think it is very important. I know, just thinking back, you know, I remember, and I'm not the Lone Ranger here, every person on this phone call would have done the same thing as me, is that we went to work, we worked our backsides off, and then we may have gone home, and I remember I'd go home, I'd have a workout, have something to eat, see my kids, back in the car, back to the office, work till midnight. And that was like a 6-week thing of job keeper, job maker, job seeker, like no one knew what was going on, cash flow boost, and clients ringing, you know, you got clients in hospitality, their revenue's down 95%. You know, Blakes I spoke to, I played footy in 3 pubs, and all these guys go, that's all right, we'll just take our annual leave. He goes, mate, I don't have the cash flow to fund it.
Correct.
Yeah. You know, so, and I think, I just think that having the conversation and you know, looking out for each other and all that sort of stuff, I think is important. And I think also it's important that, so the thing is, when you're an accountant and as a business advisor and you're providing advice to your customer or to your client around the performance of their business, then you look at the performance of your own business. Mm-hmm. And as you said, a lot of us are working at twice as many hours for half as much pay.
Yep.
And then your natural stance is that of the advisor to look at the performance of your business, and your GP is down and your net profit is down and your revenue is off, even though you've worked harder than you've ever had before, but your revenue is down because half your customers can't pay and all this sort of stuff. Then what happens is that, you know, the other thing, Keddie, we're all behind on our lodgement program. All of us are behind. Every single one of us are behind on our lodgement program, and we need that from you and your support, and no doubt that you're on top of that. But so then we're behind. We're behind in our lodgement program. We're not getting our numbers done, right? And then you start looking at your numbers, you go, shit, I've worked my ass off and I'm not making the same brass as I used to. And then I think the noise that we need to share amongst the community is that's okay.
Yep, I agree.
You know, that's okay. It's okay. We need to just take a pause. Everyone just chill out. Man, we're doing the best that we can. And sometimes we're getting it wrong. Sometimes we're making mistakes, and sometimes there's members on this call that would have billed a client for JobKeeper, and that client would have got the shits and said, I'm leaving. Why? How dare you bill me? Because the customer doesn't understand, right? That we didn't know what we were doing either.
Yeah.
Right?
No, I completely agree. Yeah. So, look, I completely agree with you. And I think the other thing that's of concern, and we're watching and, you know, we're engaging with other bodies and sectors and treasuries, what's this insolvency wave that's going to come in, and what sectors, you know, you spoke about hospitality. Tourism is clearly another one that's, you know, challenged, and the other thing that we're all living with this, you know, borders could snap like that and close again. You know, uncertainty that there's no transparency. And I think, again, a couple of things we've been trying to advocate for is let's put a plan together, at least have some transparency around what the plan is. You know, we can't go into a snap 5-day lockdown without any safety net or understanding what's on the other side. And, you know, we know that everyone's behind in lodgement programs, and Eleanor Casapetis, our senior tax policy advisor, is in constant discussions and engagement with the ATO along with a lot of members on different groups. So that issue is definitely being raised.
Thank you.
And I think, you know, the challenge is 2020 is a lot more uncertainty. You know, I think everyone was looking for 2020 to be finished, and we'll start again in 2021, sorry. I think what we've learned is 2021 is not going to be an easy ride. We're not back to normal. We don't have any crystal ball to know what's going to happen in terms of cases and restrictions or lockdowns. And I think, you know, the one thing I'd sort of say to members is kind of be prepared for you have a contingency plan.
Plan for the worst.
Well, yeah, we had the bushfires in 2019, and some, you know, members that have unfortunately gone from the bushfires to COVID. You need to just have a contingency plan. If we go into lockdown, if something happens, be ready. How are you going to adapt with your staff? How are you going to support your clients? What are you going to do to look after yourself? Have the plan ready so that if it happens, you know that you've got some comfort that you can execute, and you're not trying to adapt and do things on the fly.
Hey, a quick selfish one. What's happening? Public practice conferences, is that on? Are we allowed to go and see each other and talk? Can I just put my hand on another CPA and shake his hand and have a beer with him or her? Is that happening in May? Are we going to launch?
Absolutely. 19th to the 21st of May, public practice lawn is on. We do have reduced capacity because of COVID, so it's not going to be the big event that we've had in the past, unfortunately. But the registration should go live in the next couple of weeks. We've been working on the program as we speak. But yeah, absolutely, we will be in lawn.
Yeah, that's a great event, and I'm a big advocate for that event. And I think I went to 19 in a row or something, and I did some of my best work there, Jenso, to be honest with you.
Oh, I can imagine.
Yeah,
I've seen some of your best work there.
I was going to say, there's some people on this call that probably may have seen his best work as well.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay, so that's 19. So what's the capacity reduced to, Keddie? Sorry.
I think it's just over 100.
Yeah. Okay. So
it is going to be smaller.
Yeah, so we're just the first in, best dressed, and away we go. And I'm sounding like I'm blowing the CPA trumpet here, but it's a great event, and personally, I think it's really contributed to. And I'm not saying I'm successful. I think we've got a pretty good business. We're going okay, but I've met some amazing people at that event and lifelong friends. And what we get the opportunity to do is do what we're doing now, PJ. Right? Is we share. It's not about, hey, I'm the best, copy me or anything. I go, hey, we're doing this. What do you reckon? Oh, we're doing this with Xero, and we've added XPM, and we're using great software. And just having conversations, I think it's the best.
I cannot wait to get down to lawn. I have not been to a member event since February 2020.
Yeah.
Apart from virtually, so I haven't seen members in person since February 2020. So I am absolutely thrilled that we're going to get down there. So. Yeah, I cannot wait.
We've both spoken at the events over the years. So
that's right.
It's been very exciting.
Yeah, absolutely.
Now I'm going to take some questions very quickly. So if you've got some questions, what are we sitting at? 120. So I just want to please use the Q&A if you've got questions. I've got one here. Mark, good to see you again, mate. You're always a good supporter of us, so thanks very much. Mark's asked the question. You know Mark Pearson?
Yeah, absolutely. Shadow, we call him. He's a good man. He does his best work at conferences. No, he's a legend. He knows it.
So what can be done to make it a lot easier for sole practitioners to be registered for the multiple disciplines that exist?
Yep. So under the current framework, there's no easy answer, and that's the ridiculous part of it. I think the frustration, and this sounds stupid, but I talk about regulatory burden being like my passion, and it's my passion because it's so important, it's so critical to address, right? The challenge I spoke about before is we've got regulatory silos, and until those silos are broken down and we have more of a harmonised regulatory framework that incorporates the different types of advisory services, you're not going to have an easy way to do it. I did a panel just earlier, and a member was asking about the multiple tax registrations you have to have within the business to, again, give the advice, and that's just within TASA. I think, the thing we're trying to advocate for is more around an individual type registration system that has an ability to pick and choose different areas that you're looking to do.
That's a good idea.
And the idea being that you bring all those sort of advisory services under the one hat. You pick and choose what you want to do, whether it's strategy and product.
That's a good idea.
Registration aligns with what you want to do, and then you can go off and service your clients. And it means one registration, one regulatory body, one disciplinary.
Okay, done. I agree with that. Let's do that.
If you read the value of advice recommendations, that's the key recommendations that come out of that, and that's what we're trying to advocate for. So it's absolutely what our mission is to, and that will make it easy for the sole practitioner because you get one registration with what you need.
Yeah, and you can click on the various different things. Yeah, I think that's a good idea, PJ. This is why we pay our membership fee.
From a client point of view, now the report, because there was an SME section as well. What were some of the key things that came out for what the clients are looking for? What are the SMEs looking for?
Yep. So you're going to be pulling out some of my historical knowledge here, but consumers were looking for increased services around financial planning and consumer credit. So there was definitely the opportunity around those advisory sectors. Small business owners, it was a bit different. They were looking for business advisory, more forward-looking. So they were saying that even though they might be getting a lot of data within their own businesses and a lot of information, they don't know what to do with it. They have no idea how to understand it, how to interpret it, how to leverage it. And that's where the opportunity is for members. So if you're not using that compliance work to leverage into the advisory, that's the missing opportunity. Another thing that interestingly came through was ESG, so environmental, social and governance. around 20%, it was actually 19, but 20% of small businesses said that they would be looking to their professional accountant for more help in understanding what that means. So that's another area that we're actually looking at the moment in terms of what are the opportunities and how could, professional accountants be skilled to give services in that space as well.
Yeah, right.
Beautiful.
Keddie, I'm just looking at the chat box here. Do you know how to work this, PJ? You know how I'm not really strong. You got there? Yeah, can you do that? Hey, Keddie, I've got a question. First time caller, long time listener from me. I want to get a CPA t-shirt like yours. Can I get one?
I don't know. I'll have to ask. I got a vote today, so I was representing you.
I'm just teasing you, Keddie, because you are my friend. I want to
quite like my CPA t-shirt, if you don't mind.
I like it too, is what I'm saying. I want to have one too.
You want to talk about the elephant?
No, we're not going to do that. No, we don't need to go there. I think PJ just whispered to me to talk about the elephant in the room. I don't think we need to do that. I think what we need to focus on is where we're going moving forward.
Which is good.
And I think that, I think it would be remiss of us not to think about the impact or the impost of COVID and lockdown on CPA. Because the thing about COVID, the only good thing I can see come of it, well, I had Corona, which is another conversation we can have at some stage, but the only good thing is it did not discriminate against anybody. And we've all been impacted in various different forms and shapes. And I think we all need to be reminded of the fact that sometimes, Keddie's not at work. And so, Keddie is a good person who does support public practitioners, but she does not need to be bombarded with 3,911 emails and can you get it done tomorrow, because she's at her home. She is a mother. She is a wife. She has kids. She has a job like everyone else, and she has been belted like COVID, like you and I. And so I think it's important to recognise that, and let's temper our expectations, because I just know I see some of the emails that have gone through to public practice in the past, and I get slightly frustrated at the way that we engage with our membership body.
Yeah, and I'll say we certainly had our fair share of challenging emails last year, but I think the way that we would also look through that is that members were under a ridiculous amount of pressure and change and stress last year, and quite often, especially the frustrations for those who are in Metro Melbourne, are we in the office? Are we not in the office? Can I go to the office to get my client files? Can I not go? Why can't I go? It was completely challenging. So, I appreciate the sentiment, but we would also say that we were very mindful of the challenge and the pressure. And I would say that I do love member emails, but, always open for constructive feedback and ideas and thoughts.
Well, the other way to contact Keddie is her mobile is 041.
Well, ironically, Jason, it's on the bottom of my email. So anyone who's emailed me has my mobile number. Not a secret. It's definitely out there.
Hey, Keddie, tell me, moving into 2021 and beyond, you are at the forefront of field research and advice, and you're knowing what's happening. What are the top three things as public practitioners? What are the things that we should focus on in your mind's eye, based on the feedback you've had from SMEs and business owners? What do you think we should be doing moving forward?
Yep. So my number one tip would be, as I said before, have a contingency plan.
Yeah.
I think that needs to be a number one thing. We've seen bushfires, we've had COVID. Interestingly, we've got an article coming out next month about contingency planning, and we've got a member who first experience moving to New Zealand was she was hit by the earthquake. So there's always going to be something, right? So I think you need to have a plan and be ready. So and also tell your staff what the plan is. No good you having a plan and then suddenly your clients go, oh, your staff go, what happened? So have a plan. Number two, I'd really encourage members to start thinking about their advisory strategy. I think, compliance is never going to die. Everyone talks about compliance is dead. It's never going to die. You talked about your lodgement programs and everything else before. It's always going to be there. But think about the value adds and where you can start to, change that relationship with your client, be it individual or a small business. There's lots of areas you can talk about that aren't regulated, but importantly, you still need to know what you're doing. So, if you haven't got the knowledge in an area, upskill, look at what's available, and, really start to think about advisory. And my third tip would be, think about investing in you and your staff in your business. Take that time out and actually reflect on, what are my needs? What can I do to support my staff? How do I become that employer of choice so I can retain and attract the right people? I think culture is so important. You're not going to stick in a business and stay there if it doesn't have the right culture and the right fit. So it's just as important as working on your business strategy to work on your culture within your business as well.
Keddie, that's awesome. So I'm just going to recap top 3 tips of advice from Keddie Waller, GM Public Practice at CPA. Number 1, contingency plan. Number 2, work on your advisory strategy. And number 3, invest in you and your team. Focus on what is it that you want to get out of it and develop a great culture. Because in light of the conversation we had earlier, young lady, where the biggest challenge for us is the talent pool and not getting access to talent, then you might as well sharpen up your culture to attract and also retain your key people, because you won't necessarily need to go out and recruit if you're holding on to your team members.
100%.
Keddie Waller, you are a superstar, young lady, and I do appreciate your time. I know it is it's limited, but like everyone else, you have 24 hours in a day and 7 of those days in a week. But I also appreciate your pragmatic approach at times, and the fact that nothing was off the table. So I do appreciate the candour and how you delivered the message to our members. I'm very grateful, and I am, full disclosure, I am a friend of yours, and so I see that through a biased lens. But you are a person full of integrity and authenticity, and I welcome and am grateful for what you shared with us today.
Thank you for your very kind words, but thanks for the opportunity. It's great to be able to get out and engage with and talk to different people. So yeah, really enjoyed it, and be happy to do it again in the future.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Well said, Jason. Thank you, Keddie. Again, from my point of view, thank you for joining us and being so open with the way that we've done things. So I think, some of the comments that are coming through as well, saying thank you. Just a couple of things before we wrap up, just a quick 30 seconds now. We touched on 2 things there over the last hour. We spoke about people, and that's also one of the key things there in terms of culture that Jason just wrote down. So our next show, funnily enough, is talking about people, culture, retention. So that's something we've got 2 other experts that are coming on for our next show, Jace.
Yeah, that's
episode number 2 of 2021. It's already locked away. 2 key people. So make sure you look out for that notification that comes out so you can register. We're also going to be talking about cybersecurity, and in one of our virtual lunches in April, we're going to be talking about that in a lot more detail, again, with 2 experts in the industry to, again, share with all of you guys out there of how you can start protecting and thinking about how you can start protecting. So I know that has become another big issue. Some people have tried to bury their head in the sand. It probably doesn't work, especially with the amount of data that a lot of our firms now carry. It's pretty important. So look out for those invitations as well over the next few weeks, because you'll definitely get an invitation for that.
Thank you, PJ.
Jason, thank you again. Thanks for joining us.
It's good to be in your office here in St Kilda Road, St Kilda, wherever I am. Tell you what, I've enjoyed this, Keddie Waller. I really have. And I'm looking forward to our next lunch in a month's time, big boy.
Correct. I think it's March 26th, and we'll be talking about people and branding of how you can do that, working on things like culture and retention. So, Keddie Waller, thank you. To all of you that have joined us today, thank you. Have a wonderful weekend as we start. It's the end of summer and we start autumn next week.
Yeah. Hey, Keddie, good luck in the basketball tonight. We love rep basketball, you and I.
Yeah, we absolutely do. Yeah, good luck to you too. Thanks again, guys. Really appreciate it. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, Keddie. Bye. See you guys.
Bye.